I've been playing a lot of Half-Life 2 recently, and one time when I was on call streaming, I happened to do a weaponless run by accident. I kind of skipped over the crowbar, but I was like, oh, I can make this work. So I tried going as far as I could, and I did pretty well. I got to Eli's lab, but then I got forced to pick up the gravity gun. And so a few weeks later, I was like, I could probably make that work if I tried a little bit. And so I started rooting it and figuring out how I could make this work. And I made it work for the most part. So this is how far you can get in Half-Life 2 without any weapons at all. The first chapter in the game, Gordon will always be weaponless. So whilst this is playing in the background, I'm gonna lay down some rules for my weaponless run. So the first rule is anything that you can pick up and put in your inventory hotbar thing counts as a weapon. So not just guns, crowbars, and the gravity gun. I'm also counting stuff like grenades and bugbear. The second rule is I'm allowed to use any glitch. Any movement glitch, any major glitches which skip anything, as they will be needed to get as far as I can in this run. I actually had to learn a bunch of weird glitches to make this work. As the challenge is to see how far I can get, the final rule is no clip, no console commands, no spawning items, as I feel like that ruins the idea of the run, as I'm not trying to beat the game, I'm just trying to get as far as I can. After Kleiner's lab is where the challenge first begins, because it's when we first get the crowbar.
Hey, Gordon, I think you dropped this back in Black Mesa.
The obvious path ahead requires that you use the crowbar to destroy these planks. Now, you can destroy these planks without a crowbar by accelerated backhopping into them, but the much easier way around this area is to prop up this wall. Prop hopping is a very common glitch I'm going to be using in this. It's basically you jump on an object, you pick it up so you go higher, and you jump on it again so you keep going higher. We get another opportunity to prop up here because, yet again, boards are our greatest enemy in the early game. I even tried for ages to get the Metrocops to shoot the boards before I realized I could just prop up over. Prop hopping will be again used to get over here. The other area is possible, but it's just a lot more hassle than just prop hopping onto an invisible wall and then running to the other side. To avoid spawning a bunch of Metrocops, I throw this barrel at the window, which I accidentally clipped with the train, so it kind of threw me in the air, but it worked. In the next section, you come across this plank which you cannot prop up over, you cannot destroy, so the easiest way is to instead, earlier, prop hop over this wall. And this wall means that you can just skip that whole cutscene and everything entirely. Because of course, we have to use the crowbar again. We have this little jump we can do, and then another jump over here, and we can basically just go over this. I'm going to mostly skip over the next section because besides a few prop ups and avoiding barnacles, which you really need to do, you cannot escape them. There isn't anything specific going on, it's just running through the game. A lot of the challenge in this is patience, because there is so many guns hidden in places you would not think they are hidden, because the game needs to keep trying to give you guns. He sees this a lot more in later chapters. The next section is another roadblock of planks, our best friend. They're pretty easy to avoid. All you have to do is throw 2 barrels at each other and then they explode. And if you're a bit better than me, you wouldn't have tanked all that damage for no reason. It's okay though, I can get my health back from these menhacks, but it's whatever. I take a lot more damage in this section, and I do a little hop over this corner so that I don't have to spawn any metrocops. These barnacles are a bit annoying, and there is a gun in here, but it's pretty easy to avoid. There's some planks, and beautifully enough, the planks can be very, very, very easily broken with the barrels that are in there, so that is easy. Yay. It's important to grab one of the barrels here, because if not, this little vent will be blocked by manhacks, and you kind of have to shove them in, and it does work. You can do it that way. I just think the barrel's a lot easier, even if you have to lose all your health again. After you destroy the vent, there's this beautiful section where, and there's probably a better way to do it, but I have no clue. You just smash a little piece of the vent into the other vent, and eventually it breaks. Someone smarter would probably bring anything with them, and it would just break much quicker, but hey, it's whatever. It worked. There's nothing that interesting that goes on here, so just look at this cool jump at the end. Yeah. Getting to the airboat weaponless is a pretty good achievement. It's probably the simplest part of the entire run and involves the least complicated glitches. I'm going to skip over the majority of water hazards, as all it really has is a couple little sections which I'll show here. This section requires you to shoot a barrel, which you can't do without bullets, and you can do with metrocops, but the easiest way around it that I've found is to just throw a barrel at this wood. It's very nice of the metrocops to leave some barrels around for us. In water hazards, there aren't as many guns just laying around. The main enemy here is grenades. If you want to keep your inventory clean, you have to avoid these boxes with your entire life. It's important to conserve health, so you don't have to spend forever breaking the boxes and then specifically taking the health out of them. Again, the metrocop's hopes to stop Gordon in his tracks are foiled by just jumping over your boat and pressing the button. Great. The next actual important part of this run happens a few maps later. We have to perform this glitch. Now, the setup is a little weird. You have to get out of the boat and push it behind the level load trigger, and then get in the boat to skip the level load trigger. Walk up to level load trigger and get out at a very specific point, and that lets you have no clip. Now, there's 2 parts to this glitch. One is yes clip, which is the initial part which gives you no clip. Yes clip is a short time no clip. As you are in no clip, it behaves the exact same as it would. You can't access level triggers, so you can't just keep the no clip for future levels. To unlock the actual part of the glitch we need, which is quick clip, we need to get out in no clip. And thankfully enough, there's a barnacle on this level, so we can do that. Once we return to where we were before, we can see the effects of quick clip. The first effect is this. You can clip through walls with props, which is pretty cool. Other side effects of Quick Clip involve being invulnerable to bullets, but not damage. We still take fall damage and explosive damage. There are some drawbacks though, as it makes it very, very easy to become stuck in the map. Other enemies can get stuck in you, even if they don't attack you, which halts your progress and you have to go back to another save. It also makes it a lot harder to prop up, which sucks. With some areas, it does feel like the negatives outweigh the positives, but the positives are what make this whole challenge possible. Another drawback of Quick Clip is that we're not allowed to enter vehicles anymore, and since the boat is gone anyway, we have to complete the rest of this route bootless. It's mostly just using Quick Clip in areas you wouldn't need it, and doing a bunch of parkour. As I said before, it's very important to keep your health high as there's a lot of toxic goo, and it kills you really, 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 really quickly. The chopper fight is relatively simple, as it can't hit you, but it's worth stocking up on some health. I'm literally on 1 health here, so it was kinda necessary for me. One more quick clip and we're done. We're off to Eli's lab, which is a very, very simple section for the most part. There's nothing too interesting in the start of Eli's lab until we get to the part where we're given the gravity gun. Now, the first time I did this run, this is where I stopped. I couldn't figure out any conceivable way to skip the gravity gun. I watched one of the only other videos on this topic by Wolfclock, and he chose to prop up the hills of the courtyard. In my experience, I tried this and I really couldn't get it to work. So I made a setup which utilizes Quick Clip. First, you go through this door, and then second, you go through this invisible wall, and then once you're at the invisible wall, you just do one more Quick Clip, and there you go. You go straight to Ravenholm, skipping all the cutscenes, skipping the gravity gun, and that's it. But there is one small caveat. To get to Ravenholm, you have to climb up here, and to climb up here, you have to break this lock so that you can use the ladder. If you prop up above, you aren't able to use the ladder unless the lock has been broken, meaning you have to prop up all the way up. And prop hopping is relatively easy when you're not in the state of Quick Clip. So the first time I did it, it took me half an hour to get, but I hadn't been recording when I did that. So, to get footage for this video, I spent another 50 minutes doing this. I'm going to speed that all up into about 5 seconds. It's probably the second worst part of the run. The worst part is something even more terrifying, I promise. And thank God we are finally in Ravenholm. Ravenholm makes for quite a simple chapter. The long play of it basically remains the same, so I'll just showcase some clips. The issue I had the most with this chapter was getting stuck in enemies. As I mentioned before with Quick Clip, this is one of the drawbacks which makes this entire part quite frustrating. Especially because of the introduction of fast zombies, as they try their hardest to get stuck inside of you. Now, after skipping this section straight to the car traps, you'll see the first issue. Quick Clip makes it basically impossible to get up these car traps, so we have to have fun with another prop up. I threw a barrel over, because I found those are some of the easiest things to prop up with. Most of the chapter is doing a cool jump and then waiting forever for zombies to pass. To skip a few sections, I brought this paint can with me. Fast zombies don't really give you time to root, so I ended up trying this area, it didn't work. And then I tried this area and it worked. Over here, we had to wait for Father Grigori to send over a cart. Normally, it's easier to just do a rocket jump over, but we don't have any grenades. This section took a little workshopping because it's very easy for the fast zombies to get stuck inside of you. If you have a health kit around, which there are a few around here, they can't jump at you if you hold it at them and just wave it in their face. They try to whack the health kit out of your hands, but I don't think they can collide with that, so that means they kind of just end up infinitely swiping at it. After about a minute or two of holding them off, which feels like so much longer, you can push through them and get to the cart, and then do a little sprint jump off of it, and boom, there you are. You're finally done with that section. Once you get through here, skip Grigori's help and just quick clip through the fence at the end. Ravenholm is a pretty easy part for this challenge, as there's not many obstacles, and when there is a lot of explosive barrels, so you can get through it pretty easily. After saving Ravenholm, there's this whole conflict with Metrocops and the Combine, but you can kind of just run past that and clip through. Now we're in Highway 17, the definitive easiest chapter weaponless. A lot of people do the chapter without a car. I don't think I've actually done the chapter with a car in about 7 years. In the section with the train force field, you can easily skip that with quick clip. Because of how easy this whole section is, I'm skipping over it, but once we get to the lighthouse, we can form another part of quick clip. Because of how the source engine works, if you get clipped in a prop or in a wall, every time you load your save, it will try and push you back in bounds. Quick clip allows us to very easily get stuck in a prop, so if we save, load, we'll get put back in bounds, which allows us to skip this section with the RPG. And that's all Highway 17 is, weaponless. There isn't too much to worry about in Sandtraps. The Antlion Guard is key to unlocking the bugbear, which is something we want to avoid, so we quick clip through this door. I'd recommend bringing this pallet through, because we need something tall to quick clip through. It's a bit of a precise clip, as you can very easily fall through the map. To get up this little hill, we need this bridge knocked over. Thankfully, if we position ourselves right, the zombie will hit it over, and we can get right up. The first area of the prison was somewhere I thought impossible at first. Any props you have will be immediately shredded, and the big glaring issue is this wall. Normally you destroy the chopper with an RPG, and then it comes crashing down and destroys the wall. But we aren't using an RPG, we can't do that. So I had to find a quick clip around that. I waited a couple minutes for the Metrocops to be cleared out by the Antlions. With this setup, I was able to get into a different room, and that worked. Nova Prospekt kind of just exists, because most of this chapter doesn't require the crowbar, it's just quick clipping and avoiding weapons, as there's quite a lot in here. We meet back up with Alex again here. All is well and good until we reach the lift. Quick clip is a little bit of a drawback here. We immediately clip through the lift. So I routed this way around instead. First, send the lift up with Alex, then prop hop back to where you were, and then get out of bounds with this little trick. Then you need to spend a little time prop hopping up this wall. If we position ourselves correctly, we end up right above the lift. We can't clip back in bounds onto the elevator itself, but we can clip onto the other side and then choose to clip back into the elevator so that we can start the cutscene. After a few cutscenes, we get to the point where Alex is talking to us through the intercom.
According to the schematics, there should be a vent behind those shelves.
She tells us to go through here, but I don't think that's possible. I needed a small object that could fit through these bars, because under here is where we go to next. Thankfully on this map, there's a vending machine, which means we have a tiny object which does have collision, and that gets us to where we need to be. This little section is a bitch because you have to get through the zombies and there's no other exits for them to go through really, so you have to spend quite a bit of time here. After a few quick clips, we're back with Alex again, and this next section is the worst part of the entire run. But the end of the fight has something very similar to the lift we saw earlier. We aren't able to pass through it. And normally this isn't an issue, but for the level load trigger to take you to the next area, you need to be right at the top. Okay, so normally how you do this in a speedrun is Gordon gets onto the platform, Gordon gets out his gun, he shoots it at the floor. I didn't move the right thing there. That's Gordon. He shoots it at the floor, and then boom. That gives him velocity in this direction because he shot at the floor. So normally, if he wasn't stuck inside of this, he'd just go straight up. It'd give him a boost. But because he's stuck in this, he gets it stored. So then, every time we do a serve load whilst this is moving, let's hide that gun. We go up, and then we go up, and 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 up. And it's very precise. It's like frame perfect. And you just keep doing that. And then boom, we reach the trigger at the top. And that, yeah, we get to Kleiner's lab. But the issue is, let's go all the way back. We're not allowed this weapon. So how do we get this boost without that? Because if not, we will just go through it. Boom. That sucks, right? So let's just say a combine soldier throws a grenade at us. And it's, I think, the red. So we're gonna just make it red. If we happen to line this grenade up right in the middle, and then it explodes, we then, wait for it, we can then, if we get it right in the middle, right under us, we can do the exact same thing. That is really, really hard, and you still have to do all these frame perfects at the end, which I missed a few times, but it's possible. Here it is in demonstration. This took me half an hour.
Fascinating. We seem to have developed a very slow teleport.
I was really excited the first time I got this, and then I remembered that I had to do it again for footage. But it only took half an hour both times, which is a long time, and it's probably hundreds of attempts, but it worked. Now we're back in City 17. Here's a montage of Dog. It's got nothing to do with Weaponless, but I love him. Here, we start meeting up with allies. You normally need the gravity gun for this section, but we quick clip and tank it. This is the hands down worst chapter for guns. They are everywhere because of how the rebels can pick them up. This chapter relies less on puzzles and more on running and gunning, so these areas are a breeze to get past. We meet back up with Alex, but nothing happens, so let's skip that. The ambush here is quite drawn out, so I choose to skip it here. I'm zooming past most of these areas because we are nearly at the end, so I'll only be showing the most important areas. Thankfully, manhacks can tear down the grates of these vents. This puzzle requires the gravity gun, so let's skip that. We get to another lift, which spawns a bunch of members of the Combine. And because it's a moving physics object, we're not allowed to stand on it, even when it's moving. Thankfully, this is the last major prop hop we have to do for my sanity. I opted to make a little ladder up because of the abundance of barrels, and that made this a lot easier. Thankfully, we can avoid spawning all the Combine this way, which makes this whole section of prop hopping much more bearable. This door is locked unless we hit the triggers, so one more quick clip in here, and boom. This leads us to the section with Bonnie and a bunch of snipers, but to take out the snipers you need to throw grenades, and that's not possible, so we have to skip Bonnie. Thankfully, he spawns in the next map once you go up these stairs. Let's now ignore Bonnie again and just skip past this section. You need to quick clip into here as you're normally meant to destroy that plug, which we can't do. Now, these doors don't open until you destroy them with grenades, and we can't use grenades, so we just have to quick clip through walls. Again. The intended route for this whole area isn't possible, because we need the gravity gun to move these orbs out of the fields. So we just skip it with quick clip. We then need to clip into this control room, and there's an RPG there, which for some reason crashed my game every time I picked it up. I'm not sure why. So I decided to go in a different way, and then jump over the RPG, which took me quite a few attempts because the RPG's hitbox is massive. Once you're down back on the ground again, the game intends for you to destroy these striders with an RPG, but if you really want to, you can just skip them and leave the citizens to deal with that. This next section isn't anything too crazy, it's just waiting out the striders to shoot the cool light bending beams. Once we get up here, we get our next issue. If we cross over here, we get killed. The idea of the map is that before you escape, you have to take out the striders, which you have to do with an RPG. Even if you are close enough to escape, there's an invisible wall there, so we have to resort to quick clip. We meet back up with Bonnie and Dog, and Dog has this cutscene where he lifts that little piece of metal up for you. But it won't do it if the Strider's still alive, even though you can't be over there when the Strider's still alive. With a pretty weird and precise quick clip, we can clip down. And after passing through there, we're in the final chapter, our Benefactors. When I first started this challenge, I didn't think I'd be able to get anywhere near this area. So even this was just an achievement for me. So once we pass through here, we get to the pod ride, and getting in a pod does technically count as being in a vehicle. So this is where we lose quick clip. I did try and find a way around this, but I couldn't make it work. I'm going to skip over most of the cutscene because it's just a cutscene, it's got nothing to do with Weaponless. At the end of the ride, we get dropped down into this little area. When we enter, we get stripped of our weapons. But we don't have any weapons. So this is a soft lock. No matter how long you wait, you'll just be stuck here. So really, I count this as its own end. I really wanted this run to go on longer. I wanted to beat the game, so I asked around in the Sorcerer's server, and it's technically, maybe, possibly possible. There's some explanations which I don't understand myself, but a few maps after this might be possible, but by my gameplay skills, I really don't think it'll work. So, this is my ending. No, you can't beat Half-Life 2 weaponless, but you can play the majority of the game. Whilst doing and routing the weaponless run was really a good achievement for me, I do think it overly relied on Quick Clip. I wish there was a way to do it without it. I think it ruins some of the chapters being impenetrable to bullets and just skipping sections where you would need it. I think my run turned to more of a speedrun than a challenge run at times, and I just don't find that fun. I think a mod would do this challenge a lot more justice, changing the maps in very, very small ways to make it possible. Thanks for watching till the end. I put a lot of time and effort into this, so I'd be happy if you left a like, and a comment, and a subscribe. Yeah. Goodbye.